Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Hande Orman. I'm the co-founder of Tech Interview Coaching and also the CMO. We're really excited to have everyone on the next webinar in our final round series titled From Code to Cloud, Scaling Engineering Excellence. And cloud native has become a big buzzword, so it's a big topic right now, very relevant. We're lucky enough to have Sid, one of our star coaches, on the webinar. Say hi, Sid.
Hello, everyone.
Sid is an ex-principal engineering manager at Microsoft as of recently, and he's conducted a lot of coaching interviews with us, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Plus, if you stay until the end, we'll also get to review Sid's favorite books professionally and things that have been useful for him from a professional perspective. Going back to Tech Interview Coaching, Tech Interview Coaching is a business that myself and the co-founder founded in around 2000 during the pandemic. And we kind of founded it casually as a result of coaching a lot of other people and friends, peers with their FANG interviews and specifically around Amazon interviews. Decided to do this on a professional level. Since then, we've been scaling up. We have about 15, 20 coaches. I don't even know what the latest count is right now. Sid is one of the coaches, and we have a variety of different areas represented, both technical and non-technical. And I'm the go-to behavioral coach at Tech Interview Coaching. So you may have seen me before on some of our webinars. What else? We also offer career advancement, LinkedIn makeovers, resume reviews, and that is just about the gist. So we're sort of your one-stop shop for career advancement and job searches. Having said that, I'm going to talk a little bit about Sid. As I mentioned, he recently wrapped up his journey as a principal engineering manager at Microsoft. And today he's here not only to share technical insight, but also actionable career advice, especially for those trying to break into the industry on this really, really crucial topic. Now, having said that, Sid, do you want to share a couple of words or should we jump right into the slides?
Yeah, we can jump into the slides actually. Kind of
Amazing.
comprehensive. Yeah, thank
Sid,
you.
I didn't ask you, where are you calling in from?
I'm in San Jose, California.
Okay, good. So it's the beginning of the day for you. And Tech
Yes,
Interview Coaching is in London. At least the offices are. All right. Having said that, I'll let you go into, I guess, your background slide since we've already talked about what it is that we're going to cover.
sounds good. Thank you. So hello, everyone. So my name is Sid. I was still recently a principal engineering manager with Microsoft, running Azure JIT service, which is a large-scale distributed systems. And it's one of the very core or fundamental services that powers Azure in terms of what to say access to different resources. There are 80 regions in the world in Azure, and access to the resources in terms of compute, storage, network, and things like that. So now coming to what to say from code to cloud. So basically, what are the key core competencies for the emerging cloud professionals? As you know, everything is in cloud these days, cloud native and things like that. So basically, we will talk about various factors. For example, what are the key challenges and solutions in scaling cloud applications, best practices. We'll take some real world examples and how to optimize cost, security in cloud environments and things like that. For each one of them, I can say is that we will cover in depth more in the Q&A session. But best practices for cloud native is going to be like Kubernetes, what is like seamless development and deployment of microservices architecture. Real world cloud adoption, again, it is covered in Q&A, and it's going to be I'll give you real examples. Say in Microsoft, what I faced across for replatforming storage for a circular dependency scenario. And performance, cost, and security is an ongoing thing. Security is a big pillar. I would say that in 2024, prime charter across Microsoft, all services, security was one of the major charters. Like a lot of things were made secure, and a lot of keys were tightened up, access tightened up, and things like that. A lot of things were done in that regards.
Amazing. Okay, great. So let's jump into your background a little bit to try to figure out and learn about what got you to this point in your career. We'll go into your background slides. if we can switch over.
Yep.
There we go. Sid, it would be really bad for me to cover your bio. So if you could just maybe give us a gist of this, please.
Yeah, just so I have my bachelor's and master's in computer science, and I've interviewed for Fortune 500 companies, 200 plus candidates, have been in debriefs. I know how companies like Cisco, Microsoft think. Reviewed 1,000 plus resumes, helped many people, get new jobs and progress in their career. So some of the fundamental things I cover are career coaching, leadership coaching, career growth, and technology interview coaching. System design, algorithms are the two top ones, and behavioral too.
Amazing. So one thing that I want to remind everyone on the webinar is please send over questions that you may have. Send them away. We'll get to them. We promise to get to all of them. But just to get the conversation going, we have a couple of questions lined up for Sid. If you don't mind, I'll get started.
Go ahead,
And
please.
hopefully some questions will start trickling in the meantime. And again, anything is askable, guys. There's no quote unquote stupid question. And Sid's here and I myself as well to answer these. Cloud native, I hear this all the time, has become a buzzword. But why do you think it's important right now specifically?
1 second. So basically, cloud native basically refers to something like building and running applications that fully leverage the advantages of cloud computing. For example, scalability, elasticity, resiliency, and the speed of delivery. So with that comes microservice based architecture, containerized, dynamically orchestrated, and designed for cloud infrastructures, DevOps and CI/CD friendly. This is what cloud native in a definition comes up as a definition, how we define. Now, the biggest thing is that if you read the research paper of Borg, I don't know if you guys know what Borg is. Borg is Google's cloud system, internal cloud system. Azure is Apollo. It's known as Apollo. You can look up the research papers. So Borg basically talks about how cloud computing started and how distributed systems are very fundamental things it touch about. And if you look in Kubernetes, containers came first, then the concept of microservices came. So containers are the smallest unit of workload in a distributed system. So going more deeply, you have got, if you have a monolithic application with single threaded, then you have a single instruction stream. You cannot run it on multi-core machines. I actually had scenarios in which try to run it on multi-core machines and there are like no advantages at all. Like other cores are not getting used because there is a single stream of instruction that's coming in. Cloud native gives you the advantage that you have got multiple instruction streams and multiple data streams. So from software to hardware, everything is fully optimized and calibrated. That's why your microservices, Kubernetes, and the cloud native architectures have taken off in a big way. They optimize the use of the hardware, software, everything to the fullest extent. So yeah.
And how much of this work would you say, at least at Microsoft, was done in a microservices manner so that things, if something breaks down, it's not the entire system that breaks down and it's a bit more flexible?
I would say the adoption is still ongoing. Like there are many legacy services which have been monolith, but the number of usage that they have, or the number of requests per second, everything ties down to requests per second. How much requests per second your service is getting. If it is within manageable limits and your monolithic is doing a good job, then it is fine, because everything takes time. Like breaking down a monolith to a microservice is hard. But I would say that all the modern platforms are definitely microservices, like the modern services. From the legacy services, it's always a transition that happens, and there is always a there is always a trade-off between number of new feature works to be taken. For example, Goldman Sachs, Fidelity are big customers, and they need certain things. So maybe we'll prioritize that over breaking down something. So it's a constant evaluation. And then Azure compute and Azure storage and other parts have introduced error budget, by which they do a balance basically of when to introduce new features, when to take off technical debt. Hard to give a
Interesting.
percentage because there are so many services across Microsoft.
Absolutely. No, I
Yep.
understand. I guess the easiest thing is to have some sort of an idea at this point and, build it from the ground up and make sure that everything is already done correctly from the ground up rather
Mhm.
than transitioning things, legacy things and systems. Very, very interesting. I would love now to jump into your past experience at Microsoft. If you're comfortable sharing this, can you walk us through a challenge your team faced
Mhm.
around cloud scalability? or performance, and how did you approach it? I think that would be something really interesting to share.
So yes, so we had a SEV2 incident, ICM, in which
And so sorry to interrupt. Sev 2 meaning severity 2, just for those that may not fully understand in terms of priority.
yes, so severity 2 incident is pretty much like it's a business impact, so it has to
Yes,
be fixed.
right.
There is SEV0, SEV1, SEV2. Those are basically ICMs or incidents that happens with a service. Maybe it is taking a hit on the availability of the service, or uh, uh, you know, uh, that's one of the main things, basically the availability or the SLA. So we had a incident in which some people from the team, we were diagnosing multiple things, and they thought that it was related to a particular table in Cosmos DB, which had high number of entries. But actually, when I look deeper across, distributed systems are pretty complex. It is multiple moving parts, and all of them are working independently. Actual timing of how they interact and what bugs come in or what challenges come, it is very unique in each situation. There is concept of the Swiss cheese model. Swiss cheese model says that in a distributed system, you have got Swiss cheese has holes. So you stack them up together, and when you shake them, there will be one point of time all the holes are aligned. That's when we said that a bug has hit. These are all known concepts in distributed systems. So
Interesting.
yes, so we had and the what to say, the fault wise distributed system, two fault models are fail and stop, which is pretty easy, which is the system crashes, much easier and deterministic. The other is the Byzantine faults. Byzantine faults, like there is no guarantee when it will occur, and there is no set path for it to occur, which are more harder to diagnose and debug. This was kind of in the middle, in which, looking at the different metrics, we found that the number of requests that surged to the JIT service was multiple times, like 5 to 10 times of what the normal traffic is. And the hit was an exponential hit, the traffic, and the JIT service just could not handle it because it got overwhelmed. So in this case, the scalability became a challenge because of we were running on a bare metal machines. It's a layer 5. There is a long story behind that and pretty complex story by how Azure is divided into multiple layers. But anyway, it was a layer 5, and we did not have extra machines to scale because it runs as a separate siloed environment. So this was a big challenge in terms of scalability, because usually the auto scale group should be able to handle it. But also remember that when there is an exponential curve in the number of requests, even the auto scale groups can fail, because auto scale groups also need some amount of time to actually scale up or scale out. So this was a good case in which we had the service kind of came to a grinding halt, and till the number of requests went down. So this was a pretty complex analysis of all the different things we had to do to figure out that what went wrong actually.
What caused the delay in the auto scaling? Because I would have assumed that the whole point of it is to be dynamic, right?
Mhm. Still, auto scaling takes time to kick in. In this case, it was disabled for some reason. Auto scaling still takes time to kick in, at least a minute or more. If I can give the numbers right. There is a specific way in which you have got provisioned extra machines and they are in a sleep state. Windows Server has got 5 sleep states, if I remember correctly, or 3 sleep states. And one of them is like a low powered state. So those come up very fast. Otherwise, it takes time for provisioning and everything.
Got it. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Um, you may have touched on this, but were there any surprises or lessons learned the hard way during a major migration or rollout that you encountered, and what did you do?
Yes, so we had this as part of the relayering of the service. We had to move from Cosmos DB to Web Store, which is a
Mhm.
RDBMS SQL, and uh, during the rollout we encountered multiple problems because we are moving from a SQL system to a no SQL system to a SQL system, and the number of problems were very complex. We had too many moving parts, way too many number of changes were done in different parts of the service, and they were being rolled out. Especially when you do platform level changes, it becomes way more complex. For example, the biggest challenge I will tell you is that Cosmos DB supports something known as ETAC, which is an optimistic concurrency control, while WebStore by default does not have a ETAC field. The code was so complex that we had to implement ETAG column in WebStore, although it is not native to it. So these are some of the major challenges we came across while
Mhm.
rolling it out. These are technical challenges, but it can happen with any kind of major rollout.
Makes sense. Um, what is the biggest thing that gets underestimated during a rollout by engineering managers?
It's
The amount of time it takes, how much it costs, the
so
glitches along the way.
it's basically you're asking about the cloud, right? When you move to the cloud, right? What is the biggest
Yeah,
thing they
exactly, during
underestimate?
the
Yeah.
rollout, yeah.
Yeah. So they assume that the cloud is cheaper, but the true cost of cloud could be higher if you don't, you have underused or over provisioned resources, lack of auto scaling, egress charges, anything that moves through Amazon boundaries, the AWS boundaries, they used to get charged for that. So egress, fees can be high, like the charges can be high. It's many times aging leaders don't anticipate that. Then when they have a monolithic service and they're moving to cloud native architecture, for example, Kubernetes, without refactoring, a lift and shift usually does not work very well, and it is less performant and more brittle. So you have to re-architect towards microservices, stateless services, managed services. So distributed system paradigm of having the best optimal performance, you have to use those approaches.
Okay.
Security is a big topic. Observability and monitoring you need. And the team skills and cultural shift, like your engineers should be able to understand how the new system works and have to kind of start thinking in that direction or develop skills in that.
So going back into it, I want to remind people, start asking questions, people. You're not going to get an opportunity like this to speak to someone like Sid, who really seems to know his stuff. I'm impressed. So keep them coming, guys. In the meantime, Sid, I've got you all to myself, and I've got many questions to ask you. So you're doing great. Thank you so much. You had mentioned security, which is a big topic in
Mhm.
consumer end users' mind, right? There was a major leakage when it came to pictures, celebrity things, etc. in the past. And I had read up on this topic a little bit, and it seems like IAMs are a way to circumvent these. Can you talk about what kind of caused those leaks in the past? I think it was password related, but is that specifically related to the cloud, like in people's minds, when they get a little nervous about security concerns?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, so look, so any service that you build, there are best practices of security which you need to perform. So for example, the key should be in the key vault and stuff. Giving an example. But the problem is that many services which have grown organically, they have things built in. Nobody has gotten time to go and change it, and that's where the leaks happen. Sometimes the passwords are easy to guess. For example, celebrity passwords. Sometimes it has happened like that. Easy to
Yeah.
guess. They have left it unlocked. It's an example of like I have like a car outside, like a Toyota car outside or a Honda or any other car outside, and I left it unlocked. So anybody has access now. Go and I can let the keys inside, and he or she can drive it off. Right? It's basically that. You have the cloud. You have the security features. You need to secure it. Many services don't do that. Usually Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, they are they have very boilerplate things what needs to do, but many of the other external companies don't have that kind of standard or enforcement. Having said that, Microsoft also had leaks, because last year I remember we had a leak. So it does happen though, but the best possible security practices you can do: encryption, identity and access control, just in time and just enough access, all those things will help.
So when you said that Microsoft had a leak last year, were you involved in this? Were you the reason for this, Sid?
No, I was not the reason. Uh, I cannot. So I was not actively involved. I was involved in the mitigation. I know what happened, but we can't discuss much about it because it was kind of confidential. The real reason, I don't think it has been disclosed
Mm.
outside. But
Got it.
yeah. So, but it was related to some leak that happened, and
No, I'm
uh,
teasing you. Yeah, you
yeah,
don't need to talk
hackers
to me.
had access to some storage systems and stuff. But it was all mitigated.
Now, when these issues related to leakages of the pictures, passwords, etc., happened, did that take a hit on even B2B, like cloud computing services at even a Microsoft level? Do you think that impacted overall demand?
The problem I'll tell you is that I'll quote directly from a corporate vice president of Microsoft. They once told me that, said it's not the SLA mess, that hey, we are supposed to be SLA this much time, and it is we will pay. You know how the SLA system works, right? SLA of 99.99. If I'm below that, then I'll pay back some amount to you. like if you are my customer, because I could not meet
Mhm.
the SLA. That's how the system works. But the problem is that many companies don't care about it. The bigger problem is the reputational damage.
Of
So
course.
Goldman Sachs Fidelity will say that, hey, your data got compromised. We are worried that our customer data will get compromised. So that becomes a bigger problem, to have the confidence, customer confidence. So security is a big aspect, very, very big aspect.
Yeah.
Big banks, they won't come to you if they are scared that you don't have a good technology protecting
Totally,
everything.
totally. And I guess that's where the marketing team and the PR team comes in to try to fix that, right? The branding.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to pivot to job seekers. I'm sure a lot of people that have joined in are really interested in how to get into cloud, um, or a job related to cloud computing. What should early career folks focus on to land a role in cloud engineering?
Yep. So I would say that have a plan of action. So master the fundamentals like operating system basics, Linux CLIs, processes, file systems, networking, security, GitHub fluency. Master the fundamentals. Uh, get fluent with at least one cloud platform. Picks whatever. EC2, sorry, AWS, Azure, GCP are the three big. Pick one which you want to become expert. Focus on compute, storage, networking, IAM, monitoring. Understand this. Do a project which uses. Then you will have the best understanding. Reading theory doesn't do it. You have to try it out. Build a project. Build real projects, not just certification. And then learn infrastructure as a code. CI/CD, and then if you have a GitHub project with all these things, that will really help. You can showcase or get involved in some open source project. For example, let's say um, uh, uh, Apache Pulsar, which is equivalent of Kafka. There are so many other. Flink is another Apache Flink. There are other Apache projects. You can get involved there. That will really catapult you ahead, and you'll learn a lot.
So hands-on experience, not just reading about it. Good to know.
Yes.
When I mentioned career, I realized that we didn't jump into the slide where you talked about your career progression
Hmm.
within our deck. If we could jump back into that,
Hmm.
there we go. Maybe we could just do a quick sort of summary of this, if possible, just so that people can understand and learn how someone could end up in a role like yours.
So yeah, I started my career with Microsoft. Then I joined as a founding member of the cloud computing team in Cisco. I have patent and stuff in that field. Work recognized as top three innovations in cloud computing. Then I joined various startups. I switched between architecture and management. So that's where I learned a lot. Then I joined Citrix. At one point, I was actually interacting with 5 different business units, like working on their architecture and stuff, modernizing their architecture. So that gave me a lot of good experience. Then I joined Microsoft, and I mainly worked on Azure Logbox and Azure Jet, basically. Mainly distributed systems. I worked on something known as wrote a white paper, one of the main authors for observability and monitoring design, uh, observability and monitoring principles in for services, and that was adopted IDNA wide. IDNA is a division in Microsoft, so it has been published as a patterns library. So all services are required to go and follow that. So some of my work, and you have to go deep into what you're trying to do, and build an expertise. So yeah, so that's my journey.
It's interesting to see that you started off at Microsoft early on in your career and decided to jump back in. It must have left a good impression on you, which is nice to see for a FANG, right? Sometimes some of these FANG companies can get a bad reputation, but that is always sort of a good career move, I would suggest, if you take a break from your role and then jump back in again for career progression. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, startups, you'll really learn a lot. It's intense, it's a lot of work, but you learn a lot. I wrote some
Mhm.
scheduling algorithms for container platform. So some of the very solid work was done in startup, because Microsoft is filled with very, very smart people. Unless your service is a greenfield, like it's a version 0, you don't get a chance to work on all the core things. Startups work differently. So great experience in startups. Yeah.
I want to stay on the topic of job seeking, so career progression.
Hmm.
You've hired probably a lot of engineers, I would assume. Have you while you were
Yep,
at
yep, yep.
Microsoft? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm assuming so at a principal level. What were the top 1 to 2 traits that you were looking for as you were interviewing?
Um, I would say structured thinking under pressure. It's a very common thing. For example, when we ask you questions about a coding question, let's say algorithms, usually they are difficult. We can go into, because interviewers, it depends case by case basis, they will go into dynamic programming, which are more difficult topics in computer science. So how are you structuring your thinking under pressure, asking clarifying questions, framing the problem clearly, outlining a plan before diving in, you know, navigate ambiguity gracefully. And the second part is communication that drives alignment. Think out loud, explain trade-offs, check for alignments,
Right. And that can
adapt your
almost
answers.
make up for not getting the right response just to show how you go about a problem, right?
Exactly.
Right. What about side projects? We get asked this a lot within
Mhm.
our coaching efforts. Do side projects or personal GitHub repos carry real weight in interviews? Did those impress you?
So, for example, if you do a simple thing like you're just learning AWS and you did something, looks good. We can ask you questions and stuff. Maybe for an entry level, it is good. But for real impact, like senior plus, I would say that you need something like Apache project or something you have done some code reviews or you have contributed code. That has real weight because personal GitHub project you cannot do beyond a certain point. It takes time. So for really distributed system, like really concrete work, it has to be some of the what to say, like already existing projects which are open source projects. That will be a, if you really want to make an impact, that will give some weight.
Good to know. That's really good to know. I want to remind people that you can directly schedule with Sid to get even more insight on this topic or anything related. And I want to continue to encourage people to start sending questions. We've started getting some, which is amazing. So apologies for the verbatim reading here. Do you have any experience migrating from monoliths to microservices, and what best practices uh,
What are the best practices
you
for that?
have for that? Yes.
So basically, yeah, like we talked about monolith and best practices means you need to follow the patterns of microservices. For example, let's say circuit breaker pattern you need to have. For example, you need a proper observability for the microservices that you're running. um, you need to have a proper what to say, like a service mesh which can monitor the communication and everything that is happening between the microservices. So you have a certain pattern that you need to follow for a microservice. The monolith has to be changed or what to say, defragged into smaller services so that they can run efficiently on a microservice platform like Kubernetes is an example.
And how do you keep all of this organized? It sounds like a mesh, for lack of a better word.
It's basically you have to do. There are basically 7 bullet points. Let's say, for example, you will say that, hey, break a monolith into microservices. Second part is you need some kind of a monitoring system. Third part is you need some kind of a. So from for each one of them, you need to look at the tools. For example, let's say, what to say. Uh, OpenTelemetry is a good for observability and monitoring. Now within OpenTelemetry, it is its own world by itself. So now then you have to go deep. So maybe the two engineers they will focus just on observability. Does that make sense, right? So the team that you have, you're going to divide them across different parts. So each topic has its own depth. So you have to have people who have expertise in that.
And as a follow-up to this is the follow-up to the question that we have received. How do you suggest as best practices to manage who can and cannot access certain pieces of information?
Yeah, that's what it is very common these days. Amazon has its, Microsoft has its, what is known as a JIT, Azure JIT, just in time and just enough access. That's basically access control. That says that within a group who has admin access, who has read access, who has viewer access, and things like that. So very standardized tools are there these days. So it is there, and you have the what to say, all the access controls are meant for that. Both in cloud and internal services also use it.
That's good. All right. Well, related on the topic of job seeking,
Mhm.
um, I think even the language that we're using right now, the terms that we're using are for people that are already knowledgeable about um, cloud engineering, AWS, et cetera, everything that we're throwing out right now, Sev2s even. Um, Many of these events like this speak to folks that are already in tech. What about those trying to break in? What would you suggest for that? And this is challenging given the highly competitive market right now, right?
Yep. Simple thing is that if you haven't started your undergrad, get a computer science degree. It's a very basic 101. You can't go wrong with that. Second part is that you can do boot camps. Third is that I know engineers who are self-taught, like they will take some GitHub project and start working on it and spend a number of years, join a startup maybe. They don't care much about your what
College
skills you
education.
bring in. Yeah, and you learn along the way.
So you said you started off by saying get a degree in CS, but then you said
CS.
in CS, but then you said go into a startup and start gaining experience. Are you saying that a CS degree is necessary even for a startup position?
I would say the CS degree kind of builds a base for you. Like my knowledge is not just in coding or algorithms. My knowledge spans across computer architecture, operating systems, and that's what was needed in Microsoft. The lot of the things that we work with, the what to say, heavily technical things. So if you don't have a computer science degree, you will lack on those things. You will lack those knowledge. It's going to be harder for you to gain. It's not easy to self-learn those. The other option is that you can just study algorithms, do some boot camps. You will get a job, and then you will do the job. On the job you perform and you learn.
Do you think that engineering roles in general have been
Yeah.
hit less than the general tech community?
Yes, I would say so, 100%. For example, in 2023, when Microsoft laid off a bunch of people, it were mainly program managers. Mainly, Microsoft QA team does not exist at all. Test team, which was there earlier, that does not exist at all. Is the developers who are doing QA, the build people are also gone. There is no specific build people. So devs are the core devs are the people who are running the entire show these days. And the latest news is that I was talking to a friend of mine, and the PM to program manager to dev ratio is going to be 10 to 1 instead of 5 to 1. So that's the latest change that is coming up. So more PMs will go away in this layoffs that are happening. So yes, I would say that definitely engineering people are the core, right? So usually they are not touched unless the whole division is going away or something.
More the ICers, the individual contributors, as opposed to the managers. So those seem to be somewhat safer even during downturns.
Yes, because ICs are they have the
Sure,
most technical knowledge, right? They
sure,
learn the systems hands on.
sure,
Managers are operating at a 30,000 feet view. I have
sure.
a
Yeah.
overall view of the architecture. I know the partner teams and stuff. Both have their importance, but yeah, definitely, it's a new model that is being kind of adopted from Amazon. I would say Microsoft is trying to do that. That they want the principal engineers to be running the big projects, which yeah, in my experience, I've seen it didn't go well when we had a pilot of that. But yeah, that's the plan.
If you were to review a resume, what would you consider to be a red flag in a junior resume that
Mhm.
can easily be fixed? What do you look out for?
Yeah, a simple thing like, for example, saying that just general buzzwords, like say that in the resume they have written last experience, they said they're motivated team player with good skills in AWS. That doesn't say anything. I need you to tell me what exactly have you done. Built a project in serverless image upload API using AWS Lambda plus S3. Does it make sense? Something you have done, like a specific thing. So it has to be a specific accomplishment style bullet points, and show depth over breadth. Don't write all the languages that you know, like C, even if you haven't done a project to back it up. You need to be able to list the languages, Go, C++, whatever. You should have projects which are backing it up. Very important. And depth over breadth. 2 to 3 core projects that you have done and you demonstrated something and you shipped them. That's very important. Shipping is important. Then if it is academic projects are also fine, but you need some real projects, something end to end you have built, for example using Terraform or using AWS. You have used the storage compute. Even if it's like a personal GitHub project, that's also impressive. And not asking any questions at the end. This shows lack of curiosity. You need to engage with the team, the company, show that you're interested and why you think you'll be a good fit.
You
So
mean during the
always for
interview?
every company. Mhm.
You mean during the interview?
During the interview too, yes.
Yes. No, I totally agree with you. You need to come prepared with at least 4 or 5 questions that are about the job itself, not admin questions. Totally agree. And you actually touched on a question that I wanted to ask. How do I show cloud experience without actually having had a cloud job. And you said projects are relevant. Show whatever you can.
Mhm, mhm.
Breadth of experience. Okay. Um, is remote work common in cloud-focused roles? Obviously, with this big discussion around working from home roles and them being prepared, and how can candidates make the most of that setup if it is from home?
So I think it's a case by case basis. It's company to company and case by case basis. For example, Amazon called everyone back to office. Microsoft, at least it is mandated that the junior hires who are starting from college, they need to be on site. It is mandatory because I hired an intern and it was from the leadership that came. So it's a case by case basis how companies are doing it. For some levels, there is no remote at all. But it's case by case basis. But again, it's the same thing. How you work, ultimately, you have to be productive. You should learn the system, you should know the system well enough, and you're productive, you're delivering results. That's the key. You can be remote, you can be on site, it doesn't matter.
Um, why were the junior level engineers more required to be on site? This might be very obvious to you, but is it because it's sort of like a fraternity or sorority where you have to put in the time, you have to prove yourself?
Yeah, you basically learn a lot from your people, from your peers. Being remote, your learning curve might become bigger, like a longer, which companies don't want because you are out of college, you have never worked on a real system, and it might take you longer to get hands on or come up to speed. That's the reason they want work from office for especially junior engineers or on site.
Makes sense. Um, which cloud platforms are best to focus on for new grads?
Mhm.
You had mentioned a couple of these, but if you could just reiterate these, please.
Yeah. So I would say that there are three main ones: AWS, Azure, and what is it, GCP. AWS is the 800-pound gorilla because AWS started the initiative of cloud 2005. So AWS has the most best ecosystem of all the other clouds. So I would say that if you have to pick up one cloud, just do AWS. Take a project, understand compute, storage, network, firewall, IAM, um, and then CI/CD DevOps. Do a project including all of them. You will understand cloud very well.
Good advice. Very good. Is there a question that you feel like if you were in the shoes of someone who's watching this webinar, having read what this is about, something that you want to add as a question or as insight that you think would help a person break into
Yeah.
cloud engineering, or something really relevant to know about the business?
So cloud engineering, yeah. So an example, depth versus breadth always. So pick
Sure.
AWS, go deep. Core skills, Linux, Git, networking. And then you have to understand to pick up one cloud, AWS, Azure, or GCP. AWS is the best ecosystem, I would say. Understand Terraform, infrastructure as a service, which is in containers, you have to understand Docker, which is the de facto standard these days. CI/CD platform, what to use, GitHub Actions. Then debugging skills also. How do you look at the logs and figure out what went wrong? Some of the key things for you to learn.
Uh, like going back to your career at Microsoft, thank you for sharing those, Sid. Super helpful. Going back to your career, what do you think the main qualities of an engineer uh, that make them stand out and excel and advance quicker are
Mhm.
at a company like Microsoft or Amazon?
I would say that Amazon also the same. I would say that delivering results and in time. If there is a deadline of, let's say, April 30th, you actually deliver it by April 30th without any bugs. That's expected of everyone at all levels. Whether it's an engineering manager or a individual contributor, that's expected from everyone. So I would say that delivering results and doing things with high quality, like detailed, thorough, and least amount of bugs, high quality. These are the two things I would say.
Okay, and we have a question from one of the attendees. Thank you for that, Sid. Uh, what are the key principles or values your team follows when scaling engineering teams? So in your former team, of course.
Mhm. Scaling engineering teams. So again, it comes to the business requirement. If we have a business, say or results are geared towards some kind of a new feature, the team does not have the bandwidth, then we'll try to hire people. Basically, it depends. Basically, are you starting a product from scratch, or are you trying to add on to the current team? Depending on that, we will define the number of recs, and it's always a mixture of junior and senior engineers. That's all the teams are made up of. And usually you have more bulk of the junior engineers and tapered towards the top, so very few principal engineers, let's say, compared to the number of seniors and number of junior engineers. And depending on the requirement and what is the deliverable, what is the timeline, the hiring decision is made. The recs are decided and the hiring decision is made. And then the scaling happens, of course, when they onboard. They will come up to speed and we assign them to projects.
Very good. Thank you so much. Sarah, do let us know if you have a follow-up question on this. I can't build, and also, wonderful. You read my mind, Sarah. How do you integrate DevOps and CI/CD into everyday engineering workflows?
Oh, so that's basically, we have the pipelines all set up. So bottom line is that when you kick off a build, or when you do even if you're in your own branch, you check in something, it actually build automatically gets done, and there is a smoke test that runs on it. So smoke test is runs, and then if everything goes well, then the developer pushes that to the main branch. Actually sends out for code review before pushing to the main branch. So it is part of your pipeline. It should be set up like that. So it should be inherent. So you don't have to do anything special.
Okay, very, very good. Sarah, maybe you could let us know if you're actively considering a job in cloud, or you're already in it. That might be really interesting to find out as well. Very, very appreciate the questions. Thank you for that. Sid, I'm gonna move into the slide where you're talking about your books, and then we can always jump into more questions. So let's bring up the slide where Sid's must-read books. What an amazing title. Do you want to go through these for us?
Sure. So I'll talk to the first two technical topics, which is distributed system by Tannenbaum. It's a pretty thick book, but if you go through it, you'll understand distributed systems very well. You may not get everything in the first pass because it's pretty complex, but that is the bread and butter of Wall Street, healthcare. Everybody needs to know this. You have to learn this. The base book which builds your fundamentals and and your concepts. This is one of the best books, I would say. Second book is algorithms, because that's where from interview point of view, most of the candidates are evaluated by the algorithms. And this is, so I know people practice lead code, but before practicing, you need to know the fundamentals. What is the difference between polynomial time and non-polynomial time? What is the NP hard? What is NP complete? What class of problems are there? How can you solve an NP hard problem? NP hard problem cannot be solved. So I'm just saying you should know all these things. These are the fundamentals. So algorithms basically talks about.
Before you move on, sorry to interrupt you, Sid. For the non-techies out there, including myself, what does distributed systems mean, please?
Distributed system means that you have got multiple computations which are running on multiple compute environments, which could be multiple machines or containers, and they're working together. So in a data center, it's like a size of a football field, right? And you have got hundreds of thousands of machines. They are racked up. And so the computation that you're running, their application is running on multiple machines at the same time, simultaneously. Storage, network, they're all working together for achieving the goal of, let's say, the streaming that is happening right now. That's what's going on. So that's what distributed system is.
Okay. Thank you for that. Go ahead, please.
So usually, so I would say that companies, how they evaluate people is that we want a baseline of evaluation, right? Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they all do it. So baseline of evaluation is what? Algorithms is a baseline of evaluation. Distributed system, it's a little bit advanced topic. Many people don't know it that well. It's pretty complex too. But algorithms is something which is taught in undergrad, grad, everywhere. So we have a baseline, depending on the level you're interviewing for, we have a standard set of questions. We ask you to solve them, and we see how you perform. Bottom line is that. So for example, for a senior plus, I would expect them to know more about the time complexity. I want to give you a real example. Actually, I really liked a candidate. He was for senior, but a partner in Microsoft. He was the bar raiser, or what we call as appropriate, which means he can make a final decision. He asked that guy about deadlock, which comes in operating system. Very complex concept, actually, how it is done. The candidate could not answer. And although his other interviews went very well in system design, algorithms, he did well, but he gave a no hire. So I was the hiring manager. So I talked to my manager, Brian, and I asked him that, hey, I really like this guy. He said, you have the power of overriding. If you want, we can, talk to the partner and try to get him in. But then I decided against it. You know what I mean? Because it's not just algorithms. You need to know more. Of course, if he wouldn't have been asked that question, he might have done well. So sometimes it is luck, but overall, Microsoft Bar Raiser, Amazon Bar Raiser, they will look for very deep concepts of what you know and try to make a judgment based on that. So just letting you guys know. So, but algorithms is the core things. If you cannot do this, that's going to be a big problem. So you need to know this really well.
Did you talk about the Dale Carnegie book as well? Or
Yes.
when
So
I interrupted you, you may have jumped over it. My bad.
No, I did not. So the first 90 days and the Dale Carnegie, yeah, the How to Win Friends and Influence People is a very classic book. I would say that it is one of the basic 101 of how to interact with people, how to make sure that
For
your
any
project
field.
gets done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So highly recommend it.
So let's pull
Sorry.
you back selfishly into the tech interview coaching world a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
I've gotten jealous about all this Microsoft talk. Like, share some love with us. No, I'm joking.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
How many coaching sessions do you do a month on average, would you say, for tech interview coaching?
For tech interview coaching, I cannot remember. Probably 3, maybe 4.
And how many do you think you've done in total? Well, I should know the response to this, but let me
No,
put you on the
total.
spot.
I have done more actually, way more.
I'm getting some feedback right now from my internal intel, and they're telling me that you do way more than 3 to 4. You're being very humble.
I don't remember exactly the numbers, but yeah, whatever I must have done. Yeah.
Okay. And do you tailor them to the individual, or is there a set structure?
No, there is a specific, it's a case by case basis. People are at a different competency, different career level. What are they looking for? So you have to guide them according to that. I want to give them the structure or the goals which is relevant to their job, what they are looking for, because it's very important, right? Time is limited. They have got exactly 2 months. In the 2 months, if I give them very complex things, they will waste time. So I want to give them very structured, very goal-oriented things to do. And I would say that if you do this, there's a very high chance you will, get the job offer.
You're a
I'm just saying,
straight
yeah.
shooter like me, and that's I
Yeah.
think what makes the coach successful. You need to be transparent. Tough
You
love, right?
you guys have worked for Amazon, right? You understand what I'm sort talking about. Very much
Oh,
like
yeah.
goal oriented and result oriented. So
Yeah, they call it tough love, but I
okay.
think it's a bit of a vetting process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who would you say, well, I mean, when you take someone on as a coachee,
Uh-huh.
what sort of quote unquote homework do you hope that they've done beforehand to get the most out of your sessions?
So the best thing I can the two things to be assessed: what level they are currently at and what is their goal. So when I come in, I'll make sure that I bridge the gap, the delta. Either they need some my hands-on guidance into a problem that they are not able to understand, or do you understand, right? So they should have a very good sense of their level at which they are and what is their goal. These are the two main things I would say, which helps me prepare them for the next steps.
Since you've been on the tech side of hiring and you focused on the technical elements of a candidate, um, meanwhile, I'm always saying the first 90 seconds or so, an interviewer makes a decision on whether or not you're a good fit. And a lot of that is due to behavioral fit. How important to you is the whole picture as opposed to just the technical elements in a candidate? Because I think what I see oftentimes in my coaching sessions is someone who may be really, really strong from a technical perspective is lacking the more common sense stuff that may be just 101 for me, but to them it's really challenging, like why are you interested in this role, etc. Were those elements also important to you when you're looking at a candidate?
Yeah, behavioral kind of is assessed at each level. Actually, I will give you an example. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I'll give you an example of a real company, Datadog. I don't know if you guys heard of them. They
Which one? Sorry?
actually, Datadog and Atlassian,
Yes, yes, yes.
they're tech companies out here.
Yeah.
So in every round, they have a specific behavioral in system design. Also, they look for behavioral signals. Like, are you collaborating with others? Are you open to understanding new ideas, taking feedback? They actually look actively for those things also, signals, what you call as. So it's very important. Collaborative, are you
Absolutely.
humble? Are you able to work with others? That's super important.
Yes, and succinct into your responses as well. I always tell my coachees, humility, empathy. I think they kind of go hand in hand, but then also succinctness, because oftentimes, an interviewer, an interviewee may get lost in the response that they're giving and get really, really, really technical, and they may lose the focus and the interest of the interviewer. The stark truth is about 65% of technical individuals don't prepare for the behavioral element when they go into a tech interview. And that's a high percentage. I think it's a big element that's missing. But bringing it back to the technical piece, I think we don't seem to have many more questions. If anyone does have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You know where to find us. You've now found our LinkedIn page. Start following us. Reach out to us with any questions that you may have to me or Sid. You'll find both of our profiles on the Tech Interview Coaching website. And this has been a blast. Thank you so much, Sid. It's been really, really great. Thank you for joining us again today. You know where to find us, guys. And by scanning the code, you can also find me directly. And right next to it or so, you'll find Sid too. Seems a little unfair that we didn't add Sid's barcode in there. But I promise he's easy to find on the website. All right. Well, this sums up our final round webinar on cloud computing, from code to cloud, scaling engineering excellence, with Sid and myself, Hande Orman. Thank you again for your time, Sid.
Thank
And
you,
I'm going to say bye. Speak to you soon, I guess.
Andrea. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Safna. Bye.